How do you know a trip is right for you? I think it comes down to personal preference for everybody, which makes sense. One trip that works for someone isn't going to work for somebody else. But here are three ways that I know a trip is right for me. The first one is intangible, and some people are probably going to laugh, but it's really just a feeling. You could call it a gut feeling, intuition, whatever you want to label it as. But I know for me, I've always felt a trip is right. And when it doesn't feel right, I don't go. And there's so many different ways that I can come to that conclusion. It's definitely the gut feeling, but I think there's always a little bit of tangible that goes with it. So sometimes there's a trip that I really want to do. Let's say a friend has invited me to come join them traveling, and it's kind of last minute or wasn't planned, and I had an example of this two years ago now, and it just never felt right. And it didn't matter how hard I tried to get the logistics to work out. And it just never, things just never aligned. I just wasn't able to shake this feeling that it wasn't meant to be for me. It didn't have anything to do with the friend that invited me. It didn't have anything to do with the destinations. It just never felt right, and it didn't align. And it came out in tangible ways of flight cost, flight times, having to get to an international airport, dealing with paid time off, so my PTO at work, which I'm based in the United States, so we don't have a lot of that. So trying to get just simple logistics like that to work, they just never worked out. They never aligned, and so I knew it wasn't for me, and it's always a bummer when that happens, but it just means that there's something else that's meant to be. And at the time, that was all of the travels I did, going back to all seven continents within a year, and all that aligned, and it was wonderful. And that was something where it was a flip side. I had this feeling that it was going to happen, that it was all going to work out, and it did. And I followed that, and it was such an interesting experience for me. I'm not trying to tangent too much, but it was an interesting experience for me because I really did follow my gut feeling on it. And there were times when I would procrastinate buying a flight or booking a hotel, and which is very not like me. I'm a huge planner, way in advance, and I follow my gut feeling because every time I would pull up the flight app to purchase the flight, something would still my hand, and I was like, it's not right, it's not time. And I had answers to that obviously later as things played out, as to why that was. But so my number one thing is it has to be a gut feeling for me. It's never led me astray. Yeah, some people laugh at it. You're welcome to laugh at it. I'll never know. But for me, it's never led me astray. It's just something that I really, really look into and listen to. The second thing for me that's huge on a trip is the transportation. It doesn't have to be easy, but I just need to know that it's there and how it works. Flights are one thing. I think they're kind of the easiest when it comes to transportation. As funny as that may sound for people, they're pretty straightforward, point A to point B, or point A to B to C, connecting flight, changing airlines, changing terminals. All that information is out there on the web. You can find it fairly easily. Sometimes you have to dig a little bit depending on where you're going, but either the airport has the info or someone's written a blog. There's the info there to make that easy. It's once I get on the ground that I'm always like, okay, this needs to be straightforward and easy, easy, at least doable, because otherwise I get a little hesitant. I go, I don't know if that's the level of stress I want to handle, or I don't know if I'm going to have the energy, especially after a particularly long flight, to be able to handle those logistics that if I was well rested, I may be able to do. I like to think most of us have been there. We've done a long haul flight and we show up somewhere and maybe we didn't sleep well on the plane. Maybe we didn't sleep at all. There's time zone differences. Sometimes you arrive at like 1 a.m. and they're done that. You don't speak the language, and your brain is just tired and you're not firing on all cylinders, as a friend of mine likes to say. So that's just something else that I consider, that I know it has to be right for me. It has to be has to be doable, has to be quote unquote easy. Um, Everybody's definition of doable and easy is going to be different. Your level, your threshold will be of tolerance for for those kind of logistics will be different. So definitely something to look at. So that's my second thing I look at when I'm trying to figure out if a trip is right for me. And the third thing I always look at to see if a trip is right for me is research. I do a ton of research. I read a bunch of blogs. I go see what I can find even on social media for people that have been there, done that. There is nothing that replaces a boots on the ground experience. Um, I can say I could tell you many examples of times where I was so thankful that I had read someone's blog and they had done it before me because their knowledge and expertise that they shared had made the difference. It sounds so simple. It's really not. Maybe I just like research, but I usually research a trip for hours and hours and hours. I really should do like a timer to see how many hours I spend researching a trip before I choose to book it. It's just one of those things that research pays off. If you do the legwork in advance, things go smoother. And I think, reading people's experience, their in-person experience, it gives you a better idea like, oh, is this really for me or is it not? Because some things look super amazing and flashy on social media or the internet. You see a pretty picture and you go, wow, I want to go there. I want to do that. And um, it may not actually be for you just because it looks glamorous. Maybe it's not. And I know for me, there are things where I go, yeah, okay, that'd be cool to say I've been there, done that. But I know I would be absolutely miserable. Like, I'm not a huge um, hiker and climber. It's not that I don't enjoy doing those things. They're just not for me. I'm the kind of person who has always said, I like my indoor plumbing. Not saying I won't go camping, but there is just a level of comfort that I know I prefer to have. I don't need 5 stars, but it's just the payoff. It's like, okay, is going through all that worth it? What's the risk associated with it? What are the factors that um, maybe you don't consider or you need to consider? And then is your life in somebody else's hands? Which sounds crazy, but you go to polar regions, for example, and your life is in somebody else's hands. You trust the expedition team, you trust the ship crew, especially when you're in a remote region. It's the same thing when you go and you go hike mountains or climb mountains. Your life is in the hands of your guide. So I do a ton of research. I think it's so important for trips and just trying to figure out, is it for you? Is it not for you? Um, yeah, so those are like the first three things I look at. There's probably a ton of others that come up, and it all comes down to personal preference at the same time as it does, the logistics of stuff. But I think it's very important when you're looking at a destination, you're trying to decide what to do. Pick one that is right for you, based on your comfort level with everything. You have to remember to keep in mind there's going to be language barriers when you go places. That's a lot easier to overcome these days with our phones that now can translate for us on the fly. And which I remember the days when you had like pocketbooks to pull out and try and figure it out. Those were the days. And sometimes that still happens because phones don't work. But I think it would be very important to, write out what are you comfortable with and what are you looking for in a trip, and then do your research and figure it out and ask yourself, does this feel right? Am I comfortable with this? And all of that wraps into having a trip that's enjoyable and an outcome that's smooth and just hopefully reduces some of the stress. So yeah, those are my top three, and excited to talk more about travel. I love talking travel. I could do it all day long. Yeah, so check out the blog. I'm still building it. The work in progress. They're a living thing. Join in the newsletter if you want you to drop some other insights into your inbox, or jump on my calendar if you want to just talk travel. Yeah, come in, hang out, stay a while. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.